My name is Claire Gilbert, and I'm here to tell you more about Seed's Young Changemaker programme. Young Changemakers is an evidence-backed programme which aims to build agency and enable young people to take action and have an impact to improve their world. And I'm really delighted to be joined by some teachers who have run Young Changemakers in their school. Alice, Anna, Hoeda, would you mind just coming off mute and briefly introducing yourselves?
Hello, I'm Alice and I am a teacher at Stroud High School. We've been doing Young Changemakers, this is the third year now, but we've done it slightly different every year, so I can talk about that in a bit. And it's a great thing, I think, for young people to get involved with.
Thank you, Alice. Anna, do you mind introducing yourself?
Yeah, well, Ana Romero, and we have been part of the Young Changemaker since it started back in 2018. It was a pilot back then. It has evolved in a very nice way. It's a great program to really give powerful information to students and form them as true agents of change.
Amazing, thank you. And Hoeda, would you mind introducing yourself?
Hi, I'm Hueda. I'm a biology teacher and climate change education lead at my school in Surrey. And this is the first year we've run the Young Changemakers program at my school.
Amazing, thank you so much. I'll give you a bit of an introduction into Young Changemakers. Why are we doing it? Well, Seed has been listening to the voices of young people for a long time. Since 2018, we've been running the Attitudes to Sustainability survey with the University of Essex, and we've heard from over 4,500 young people. And you can see on the screen there some of the key findings. Young people, they do want to know how to be sustainable in their lives, and they want to know how to make a difference, but they're not always feeling empowered to do so. They're mostly aware of how big the issues facing us are, but the reasons for the systems and the relationships that are driving those changes are not always clear to them. And the media, including social media, can be a powerful influence on them, but schools and teachers are still really important sources of learning for them. So gathering all this evidence, Seed's been working to empower young people and trying to build their sense of agency and ability to take meaningful action. So how are they doing that? Well, the approaches for Seed are based around building agency, hope and resilience through pedagogies like action learning. Young Changemakers has begun over 10 years ago, and it really centres on Seed's approaches. It's a flexible programme designed to fit in flexibly with the way schools work. And a really important aspect of it is that young people reach out to organisations in their community, and that really builds local community capacity and highlights local activity so they don't feel that they're working alone. We use assessment tools such as the ACE, Action Competence Evaluation Self-Assessment, and the Attitude Survey already mentioned. And we have a really rigorous research and evaluation process, which I'll explain more about in a moment. But I'd like to hand over to the teachers now to get a bit of feedback from them. So the first question I was going to put to them was, why did you decide to run Young Changemakers, and how have your students responded? And perhaps Anna, perhaps you could go first if you don't mind and just give us a bit of feedback to those questions.
Yes, absolutely. Well, we decided to run the Young Changemakers as a pilot at the beginning because I was in the interest of creating a program for my students that were part of the co-curricular activities and offering that we were giving. And I was really interested in complementing the curriculum that I saw different gaps, and I was very keen in introducing sustainability as a subject in the co-curriculum that was fulfilling precisely those areas or those gaps that I was seeing in the curriculum. And back then it was we initiated with a very good size group with around 28 students that were in year 11 and year 12, and it was very successful. We apply a lot the reflection process in retrospective. And every time we were looking at their reflections about the sessions, it was a whole transformation with this system thinking that is part of the Young Change Makers, that is something that is really valuable for students to really realize that it's not a linear process, but that everything is a system. And that was the first realization that I believe it was super helpful for young people that were involved in the program, and they responded really positive. And you can see the statements and the evidence through these reflections that we have gathered throughout all these years. And probably like Alice, we have evolved in a way. We have been using the Young Change Makers, and I think that's something that is very valuable, that you can adapt the program to the real needs that you see in your groups. Every group is different, and every student will have different ambitions and different interests. And that's something that I really value from the program, that you can really adapt it and tailor it to the interest of the new groups or batches of students that you get to have every year.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much for that, Anna. Hoeda, I think you wanted to contribute something about how your students have responded to the programme.
So this is the first year, as I mentioned, we're running Young Changemakers at SWERPS, and well, we have been running it for Year 12 students as an A-level plus option. So on top of their 3 A levels, it's one of the options they could do alongside EPQ, etc. And the response has been great. And I just wanted to read out something one of my Year 12 students had written. So she says, "We've really enjoyed learning about how change happens and how small steps, both as individuals and as a team, can make a meaningful difference in protecting our environment. The programme also develops initiative and leadership as students work collaboratively to apply classroom learning to real-world challenges. The problem-solving and action learning skills we are gaining are highly valued by universities and are essential across a wide range of careers. Although this is the first year the programme has been run at SWERPS, it has already proved extremely beneficial for students involved, and we hope the positive changes we are planning will soon become visible across the campus." So I just wanted to share that just as a small snippet of just how beneficial it is proving to the students.
That's lovely. Thank you, Hoeda. James, I see you've joined us. Hello, we're very welcome. Do you want to introduce yourself and maybe respond to that question if you'd like to?
Sorry, I was a little bit late. I was just finishing off my revision session with A levels, just getting out the door. My name's James. I'm at Archway School. It's our 3rd year of running Young Changemakers. We run it as a voluntary group, primarily as a lunchtime. I want to say club. It's going to be a lunchtime activity, and then we take students out who are involved a couple of times a term to have like a longer session. What I found is, because we've had students moving from one year to another, any students who've been involved really wants to stay involved. So they've kind of started up a project and then they don't really want to then just let it go. They kind of like, no, look, we've been doing this now. We want to continue this. So we try and now keep whatever project people have been working, students have been working on, to within their own group. So we can really focus on what I'm working on your particular project now and yours, rather than being stretched across lots of different students' ideas and needs. And why did we choose to run it? I suppose it was, we'd been starting to kind of move and make some sustainability changes within school. But I'd found that you're kind of, myself, primarily kind of walking uphill against a very viscous establishment willing to change. And students didn't have the opportunity. And I thought, actually, how about we just get students involved and they can see if they can make these changes. And kind of looking at the programme, I think it was exactly what I've just heard being said, the students having that agency themselves to go, we can do it, rather than what seemed to be the case. And I think what a lot of teachers in education have is the head teacher needs to do this, the governing body, they need to do that, and instead just going, okay, we're going to do this, how do we do it? And that was kind of the reason. And since then, we've had a lot of students. I mean, I think over the 3 years now, we've in and out of the project, I think we've probably had about 70, 80 students involved and engaged in various projects. And students have engaged very well. I find because we run it as an optional activity, we find that we have a very, very high uptake initially, and then students go, oh, actually, we're giving up. This is not just we're going to go and plant some flowers, we're going to engage with project management. So we kind of have a very high uptake, but then we get quite a sharp drop off. What we then find is those ones that have stuck are really invested. And they respond really well because they start off by going, can we dig a pond? And the response is, I don't know. Can you dig a pond? Let's see what that is going to entail. What are your thoughts? What do you want to achieve? And once they've gone through that process, I find they start taking ownership of a problem. And then whether or not they achieve their final goal, they've always learned something. And they always come back round and they go, right, what do we need to do next? And I think it's that. It's like this hasn't worked. Why hasn't this worked? What do we need to do now? Okay. And that's what I see from young change makers. So rather than just going, give me permission to do something, the students may go in, hold on a minute, I think we can do this. And I think I have the power to do it, which is really great to see. So yeah, that's my take on it over the 3 years.
Thanks, James. That's really interesting, and it's exactly, I think, what we're aiming to do with building that capacity among the young people through the action learning cycle. So thank you for sharing that. Alice, is there anything you wanted to add from your perspective?
Yeah, so same as James, we've been running it for 3 years. I would say the reason why on the last 2 years we've actually rolled it out for the whole of year 9 as part of their enrichment program. So we make them do it in year 9. We started off voluntary, which was great. And as James said, that meant the level of engagement was really good and the kids were really invested in their sort of ideas. But by rolling it out, we're finding that we're able to sort of teach these skills really explicitly to a whole year group. So we're trying to get across the sort of theory stuff about change making. And obviously there's the stuff about sustainability, but we don't sort of dwell on that side so much. I mean, obviously their initiatives are sustainability based, but we very much are trying to channel it into leadership skills and what are we actually doing in by doing these initiatives. And we're trying not to use the word project and trying to make it cyclic. And the kids find that really uncomfortable. And there's usually quite a bit of a pushback against it to begin with, because they want to set a goal, have a target, reach the target, tick it off, move on, get on with the next thing, because they just see it as another thing they have to do. But when we make them realize that there's more to it than that, then you do start to see they come out themselves a bit more. And we don't get every kid loving it. Not every single year 9 is fully engaged and passionate about the whole thing. But we do end up seeing more becoming so as the year goes on. So it's quite interesting from before and after.
That's really interesting. Thank you, Alice. And I was just wondering, when you're saying that not everyone loves it, I wonder if that's not just students, but also potentially staff, because it's not always comfortable, I think, for everybody involved. Paul Vare, who is one of the researchers who has been looking into the effectiveness of Young Changemaker, one of his quotes is, we have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. So it's interesting to hear you say that. I'm just going to move on now to actually show a video from a student actually at James's school who really, so you set that up really well, James, because she actually talks about her ongoing work with Young Changemakers. So just give me a moment to play that.
I'm a year 10 student, firstly, who has been in Eco Council, or what we changed the name to Young Changemakers, since year 7. So the Young Changemakers programme was first introduced when I was in year 8, and since then there have been loads of changes all around our school. The Young Changemakers programme has allowed more students to get involved with what is happening around our school, going from litter to electricity to biodiversity. We created groups which focused on different areas, for example the food group, which focused on reducing food waste, growing and selling our own produce. They even went to the Stroud market and they ended up raising a decent amount of money, which we're now using in the school to help the other groups, including my group, which was the biodiversity group. This also meant that we could get specific people into the school to talk to us about the topic we were working on, or just climate change and sustainability in general, all with the help of the Young Changemakers programme. Through the Young Changemaker programme, we have learnt new skills and even gone on trips to learn more about what as a school we can do. Everyone's Young Changemaker experience has been different, but for me personally, I was in the biodiversity group, which worked on looking after and increasing the biodiversity of our school grounds. During this time, me and the rest of the group built up our pond, planted trees, and created a wildflower meadow, which included scarifying the ground and then planting it up. We had plans to create a bee bank for solitary bees, but sadly ran out of time and I got outvoted. So we didn't get a chance to do that. This, like most other projects, will be ongoing and we will hopefully do that in the upcoming year. I mentioned earlier that we got the chance to go on trips. Our trip was to Westonbirt, where we learned loads about various topics, including the propagation of trees and identification. It really helped us as a group to get key information for our project. Overall, the Young Changemaker programme has supported and helped our school to create a space where students can share ideas and their love of the natural world, as well as helping influence the school's sustainability. It has taught us skills we will continue to use as we grow older, taught us about the importance not only of sustainability and climate change, but also of teamwork, and given us vital experiences which have shaped our school. For me, the Young Changemakers programme has been enjoyable and something I believe more people should have the chance to get involved in. The changes that have been made are visible and have made a positive difference to our entire school. Thank you.
Fantastic to hear from Aurelia there. So it's brilliant. So now we've heard from Aurelia, and I wanted to talk a bit about research. So as I mentioned, Paul Bear, who is a sustainability education expert at the University of Gloucestershire, has been evaluating the programme for a number of years. And there are 6 key findings which are coming out from his research around young change makers. And firstly is that young people are developing action competence through the programme. And secondly, they're developing skills, knowledge and agency for a sustainable future, as well as systems thinking and critical thinking skills, which we think are really critical really for futures thinking. And it moves students from anxiety to action. Eco-anxiety is something we hear about a lot, but there's lots of research that shows taking action, particularly in a group, can make you feel much more positive about the things that we're facing. And working with the local community does bring hope, and I think that comes through in Aurelia's video testimony there as well. And of course, it's research-backed as well, with a strong theoretical foundation. So I hope that's given you a bit of background on the research to the programme. So now I'd like to go back to teachers themselves and ask them what surprised or excited you about the programme and what impact does it have on your school? So I don't know who would like to kick off with answering that one.
What I've really enjoyed about running the programme this year is that opportunity to just step outside of the curriculum and talk to the students. So following the course, but also having those deeper conversations, sort of guiding them. So I've really enjoyed that aspect of things. Young Changemakers fits in wonderfully with our school, as we've been pursuing a whole school approach to sustainability for the last couple of years. I did the Changemakers course when I was on year 2 of that journey, and that sort of perfectly complemented where we were headed as a school and helped me to implement sort of the 4 C's, community, campus, curriculum and culture working parties. So it was almost perfect because it fits in so well to those 4 C's, and I think the school's taken to it really well. And the students, we've had a great uptake, and even today at the end of it was the end of term assembly, there was a big shout out to Seed Young Changemakers for all the work they've been doing this term. So it's been really positive from my end.
I think what's excited me probably more is the kind of watching soft skills develop and some unexpected things come out. So students, they're having to communicate with each other. They have to have disagreements, and it can be, Clay said, it can be quite often, it's a difficult process. It can be quite scary to let go and go, right, you've now got to try and work this out between you. How are you doing that? Watching them get to grips with kind of the reality of time and commitment and using that responsibility to try and solve a problem. And I think you're right, initially you kind of had this idea of, yeah, you want to get to the end, we would like to dig a pond, and to do that we need X, Y, and Z. There you go, we've done it, thank you very much. And actually the journey is far more than that. There's lots of little kind of skills coming left and right. And I really quite, when the failure side of it, like students, I say your word failure, they if they don't achieve what they set out to achieve, I've yet to find a group that feels like they failed. They always feel like we didn't get where we want to go, but we've achieved something. We've taken some steps, and normally that is right. We're going to pick this up next year. We know where we're going to start next year, and that's not what I was expecting at all. I think other impacts I know they have is because the groups are not, it's voluntary. We don't choose the group to go on. We found get these vertical groups. So in one of the groups, you've got students from year 11 and students in year 7 and everything in between. And they're all working together and communicating on a very level playing field. And it's all sorts of very diverse people. And so it's really nice to see these relationships set up, and some of them being set up, their own WhatsApp groups, and they communicate outside. And so there's a social aspect as well as the important work they do. Certainly from the teacher point of view, they're always quite intrigued. I think there are some projects that have more visual impact that make other teachers kind of sit up and go, oh, what are you doing there? So the food growing group, that's very, very striking, because suddenly there's tomatoes and beans and things growing out in the bay, and everyone wants to know what's going on. It's very exciting. And then that kind of just drags people in. You get more and more people kind of asking questions about, oh, how have you done that? Oh, isn't that great? Would you like to do that? So, and on the back of that, we've had a couple of new teachers kind of wanting to get involved. And it's kind of like paving the way to kind of their supervision. And there's another teacher who wants to have it as part of their professional development and performance plan for next year, to be involved in that sustainability side of things. So it kind of gives teachers an avenue in. It adds to their own professional development, and that's not something either that I thought, it wasn't something I was expecting when I started. So yeah, I think that the students that are involved feel very positive and empowered. It brings students together, and kind of it shows the way, it shows you this pathway for other teachers trying to get involved who might not necessarily be there. I think you said teaching the school. I mean, the governor's been very, very appreciative and always wanting to know what's going on, and we have had parent comments going, oh, I heard that you're doing this in the school, and that's great. And so I think it's it spreads the message of sustainability further afield as well, rather than just within the initial school community. So yeah, I think it's been a fantastic impact.
Yeah, similarly, I think we haven't got to the point yet where there's been anything massively obvious that's been accomplished that everybody can see in the school, like a pond or something like that yet. But it is really nice to see the students, and there's lots of them, and we've got them all in different committees, and they're all starting to. What I like about it, or what surprised me, was how hard it is to realize that everything is connected. And what the kids do, they can really, the students, they start to really realize that everything is connected in the school. And so there's all these people that do these things, and all these people that do these things. And if these things change, then that's going to change. And I love it when the sort of penny drops and they start to think that, and it's frustrating for them initially, because they would like it just to be easy, and it's really not easy. But it's really nice to see them build that resilience, and they're starting to realize that they're building that resilience, because they do find things challenging, but they're working around different problems, and they're going to talk to different people in the school, and then setting up meetings with the site team, and all the sort of areas that they wouldn't necessarily do it. And some of the students, it's great. I really love to see their just ideas fly, and then they get so motivated by it, and they're so, they're drawing up all these action plans, and they're having all these meetings, and they're going off to do these things, and they get really sucked in, and that's great. And that's not every student in year nine, but there are quite a few that suddenly sort of think, oh yeah, and they get behind the agency, and they get behind that sort of purposefulness, and I think that's really a really great impact. I've had to work with lots of tutors in delivering this, because obviously there's been all the tutor groups in year nine doing it, so it's 160 kids. And so I've had to learn a lot about the program myself and really get my head around it, to then deliver that to tutors for them to deliver to students. So I've found a massive impact on my own sort of ideas of what change making is, and I've had to learn a lot, and that's been valuable for me. And every year I do it, I'm getting some more. But it is, some of the theory side is really really tricky, and having to break that down to other members of staff, and some members of staff might not be as willing to get on board as others. But I hope that they are learning something too, and that will have an impact, hopefully, in the wider world as well.
Great, thank you, Alice. And Anna, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, well, for us, the impact of the program, of the Young Changemakers program, has been huge, has been outstanding. It really changed us many years ago in the way we were looking at this topic from the co-curricular perspective, but also precisely like you have mentioned, the linking of all these different areas that were disjointed at some point. So thanks to students precisely taking the program, was this topic was implemented, recognized, and advanced in the agenda of the college. And it has been many years, many years, and it's never easy. It's a continuous battle of change, of really adapting to new situations, to new perspectives, to new strands of interest that take priority for the school. And is us really advancing the agenda. And now it's not only, for example, sustainability, is going to climate education and influencing other, in our case, other members of our Wellington family around the world and learning from them. So one of the best impacts that I can share with you is precisely thanks to these students receiving this program and organizing themselves to find out more about the Sustainable Development Goals and trying to understand what was the subject about sustainability, how it was viewed here in the college. They decided to run a survey for decision makers and stakeholders. And thanks to that, they formed their own sustainability and climate action plan, where they identified the main 5 SDGs that were aligning with the core of this community. And then they based their action plan on those 5 SDGs. So students got organized, got to be in contact with these decision makers that are not seen many times in this sphere of their lives, such as, for example, people working in catering, people working in operations, people working in different areas, and developing their own projects. So with real information, with real thinking, with real challenges, in which probably they were proposing stuff that was not real in a way, but they realized, oh, this doesn't work here. What can I do now in plan B? And thanks to that, I can tell that my batch from 23-24 was one of the most successful ones, that they formed their outcome report of their actions. It was the first one that made themselves accountable, and they presented with it these, with these outcomes, and this, and they were very proud of having achieved change. The next batches follow other strands. Now, for example, the current one, they are working in creating the journey of sustainability through a video in which they will be interviewing, again, decision makers, creating their own TikTok stuff. And they are creating their own event to showcase what is the journey and what hope means for them, that they have taken that word. And I think that's something that the program does really well. It's not about catastrophe, it's about hope and how we can shape that to build precisely, like we have mentioned, resilience in students.
Thanks, Anna, and thanks so much for bringing the word hope into it as well. That's really fantastic and a really important part of the programme. So just giving you a bit more overview about what's involved in the programme. So as mentioned by all the teachers here, the young people work collaboratively on projects, and there are these modules here which support their action learning. To run it, the schools need to be members of SEED, and then there's a contribution to access the resources and the support, which includes a certification of students based on the competencies they demonstrate, which can be used as evidence of their growth. So we're going to come near to the end of the webinar now, and I just wanted to wrap up by asking our panelists why they think Young Changemakers is an important programme. So if anyone would like to volunteer to kick us off on that, I'd be grateful.
I think a lot of what's been said already has probably been quite important. But I think it is that you said, I'm really glad, again, you said hope, Anna, but lots of students are really concerned about it, and it's kind of quite often put to one side, or if sustainability is dealt with, it's quite often in a very bolted on sort of way, and students don't feel they have the power to do anything. And they kind of, if they are going to do something, they just might think, well, okay, as once I said, an example of a pond, we're going to dig a pond. The Young Changemakers, I think, gives you that program of one, that theory of change and agency of how do you get there, but it also makes you think, like, is that actually going to achieve what you are hoping to achieve, or are you just doing this because it's your first good idea? It's a process and a journey and a series of skills that kind of equip students with the ability to, one, keep going if things don't work, not accepting no as a straight answer, rather just going, well, how do I work around that? What is the way to do it? And the encouragement to kind of, just kind of think very, very deeply and clearly about what it is they're doing. And those skills, I think, are not just important in sustainability in education. These skills, I think, are important throughout life. So I think Alice going to be treating it as like a leadership program. And so, giving the students that ability to do it, I think, is vitally important. And I think if we don't give it them, kind of missing out on a huge trick, and not really giving the students what they really need and need to be equipped with to deal with the future. So I think it's a really important program, and everybody should do it.
Well, for us, it has been an essential program to really enrich the co-curricular experience. And following this, we have implemented some of the principles, because this is for, as I say, for our senior students. But following the principles of the Young Changemakers, we have tailored it as well for our Year 9 group. So all our Year 9 at the moment are having 8 full sessions based on different aspects of the Young Changemakers. So I can tell you that in part is fully working for these more senior students, that they are electing, really, it's elective for them to say, I want to be part of this. But considering how busy is our environments, and I think that's for every school, that needs that's the challenge when you have co-curricular activities that are not part of the curriculum, is the challenge of introducing new initiatives that can like enrich the education experience of young people, and having that challenge of restriction of time. I'm very grateful that I have eight sessions with the most young ones, because I believe they are essential to get this information precisely when they are young. And I think in that sense, the program really builds those strong bricks and foundations for them become senior students and hopefully join the full program.
Well, echoing what Anna said, I think it's great that we do it with our Year 9s. Even though the older ones, I can imagine, would understand some of the theory a bit easier. The Year 9s find it quite challenging, the theory of change and all the cycles. But I think getting them reflecting on these skills and these competencies and these values of what they're using in these activities, and the way of thinking and the way of changing views and the ways of adaptability and resilience is so important, as James said, to get those skills going and their awareness of those skills at a really young age, so that they will use them and they will build on them, not just in sustainability, but also just in everyday life as they go on, and hopefully, stand up for the right things and make change in whatever field they end up in. So I see it as part of their sort of educational journey, not just for a year sort of thing.
For me, so in our school, we sort of follow a model for meaningful climate change education, which is based on 6 qualities, and that was put forward by Glacken and Greer, 2 researchers at King's College London and UCL. And two of the qualities, encouraging students to be agents of change, that is absolutely what the Young Changemakers programme allows students to do. But another quality is accepting and embracing complexity. And I think particularly for year 12 and A-level students, they've been really grappling with that. And I think they have been uncomfortable, they've been frustrated, and yet they've sort of worked through that together. And I love what Anna said there about hope as well. And they've sort of come out with this hope and optimism. And Young Changemakers has enabled that, and that's been wonderful.
Great. Well, thank you so much to all of our expert panelists who've joined us and shared their thoughts. I really appreciate it. It's been so insightful. Thank you so much for sharing your experiences, and I hope that you all continue to enjoy Young Changemakers and it will be spread to more schools. So thank you so much. Really appreciate it.